Kayla Marshall was the kind of girl who blended into the background. At 17, she wasn't the life of the party or the head of the cheerleading squad, but she didn't mind. She was fine with being invisible, at least that way. People didn't pick at the little imperfections she wished she could hide. It wasn't that she didn't have friends, she did. But most of them were the quiet, bookish types, and they stuck to themselves. Kayla was smart, though. Top of her class in math and English, a whiz at puzzles and problems that required more than a casual amount of effort. She was the girl who aced every test without trying, who could help anyone with their homework without breaking a sweat. But somehow, in a school like Willow Creek High, that was a liability. It was hard to say exactly when Sierra Anderson had started targeting her. Sierra was popular, one of those girls who oozed confidence and beauty like it was effortless. She had everything: the boyfriend, the attention, the friends who laughed at every word she said. And, for reasons Kayla couldn't understand, Sierra had decided that Kayla was an easy target. It started small. The snide remarks about Kayla's clothes. A cruel joke here or there, a comment about her messy hair. But over time, it became an open campaign. Kayla could hardly go a day without hearing some cutting remark. When Sierra's friends weren't laughing at her behind her back, they were doing it right in front of her, making sure she heard every word. It wasn't just the comments. There were the pranks. The fake notes slipped into Kayla's locker, signed by mysterious admirers, only to be revealed as mockery. The food thrown at her when she wasn't looking, the texts sent to her friends pretending to be from her, leading to whispered rumors that Kayla was the one spreading lies about people. But the worst of it came just a few weeks ago. It was during the annual school talent show, the one event Kayla had poured herself into every year. This time, she was finally going to perform. She had written a poem, a piece about strength and standing up for oneself, and she was nervous but excited. That is, until Sierra showed up at the rehearsal. Sierra was there, of course, front and center as the judge of the auditions, her words carrying weight even though she had no actual power. Kayla had been practicing for weeks, and she knew she was ready. But as soon as she began to recite her poem in front of the group, Sierra interrupted. "Oh, please, not another sob story," she sneered, flipping her perfectly styled hair over her shoulder. "This is a talent show, not a therapy session. Maybe next time, try writing something people actually want to hear." A few of Sierra's followers giggled. Others exchanged knowing looks, and Kayla's heart sank. She was humiliated. It wasn't just that Sierra was dismissive, it was that she made everyone else see Kayla as insignificant, as someone whose work wasn't worth their time. It was the quiet, insidious way she made Kayla feel small. And, of course, Sierra's comment made its way around the school faster than wildfire. By the time Kayla walked into the lunchroom the next day, she could feel the eyes on her. Whispers, giggles, the occasional, pointed stare. Kayla wanted to disappear. The final straw came the day after the talent show. Kayla was sitting in the library, trying to finish an essay for AP History, when her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, half expecting a message from one of her friends. But it wasn't a friend. It was a text from an unknown number. "Hey, you know that poem you read? You should just stick to math. You'll never make it in a real talent show. You were a joke. Everyone's laughing at you." The message had a screenshot attached of a social media post from a friends group chat where Sierra had shared a photo of Kayla in the middle of her recital, captioned with, "When the wannabe poet tries to get deep, but forgets to bring any talent." The words "everyone's laughing" echoed in Kayla's head as she stared at the screen. She knew who had sent it. She didn't need to ask. Sierra was the mastermind behind it all, orchestrating the humiliation from behind the scenes, making sure the entire school was in on the joke. And for the first time, Kayla was furious. Kayla stood up from the table, the essay forgotten, and stormed out of the library. She needed air, needed to escape the suffocating weight of it all. She had spent so much of her life avoiding confrontation, trying to stay out of the way, thinking if she kept her head down, they would leave her alone. But that wasn't working anymore. What really hit her wasn't the mocking post, or the rumors that were circulating, or even the cruel text. It was the fact that Sierra had made Kayla feel worthless. Not just with words, but with deliberate cruelty that chipped away at her confidence every single day. As Kayla walked down the hall, she passed Sierra's group, laughing loudly near the lockers. It was like the entire school was in on the joke. And in that moment, something inside Kayla snapped. She wasn't going to be this person anymore. She wasn't going to just sit back and take it. She wasn't going to beg for their approval or wait for Sierra to tire of her. No. She would make them pay for what they'd done. But this time, she wouldn't stoop to their level. She wouldn't lash out in a fit of anger and make herself the next victim of the school's cruel gossip mill. No, Kayla was smart. And she was going to be smarter than Sierra. She'd wait for the right moment. She'd play it carefully. Quietly. Subtly. The thought of getting back at Sierra filled Kayla with a strange mix of excitement and nervous energy. She didn't know how yet, but she would figure it out. She would make sure Sierra felt exactly what she'd done to Kayla for the past year. And this time, it would be Kayla who had the last laugh. Kayla spent the next few days replaying the moment in the library over and over in her mind. The text, the post, the laughter, all of it stung more than she'd expected. But as the sting began to fade, a new feeling crept in: strategy. If she was going to do this, she needed to be smart. She couldn't afford to make any mistakes. She began her research quietly, methodically. She paid closer attention to Sierra's every move. There was no obvious pattern to Sierra's behavior, no glaring weakness. But Kayla wasn't looking for big mistakes. She was looking for the cracks beneath the surface, the small things that people overlooked, the things Sierra herself might take for granted. Kayla knew Sierra's routine. She knew where she spent her free periods: the student lounge, usually with her clique, where she sat in the cafeteria, always the same table by the window, and which teachers she buttered up for extra credit. Kayla even started watching Sierra's social media more closely. She'd seen the glamorous selfies, the parties, the carefully crafted posts about living her best life. But there were gaps. Stories deleted, posts that seemed to vanish as quickly as they appeared. There was something about Sierra's image that didn't quite add up. Kayla wasn't a stalker. But she was a student of human behavior, something she'd learned to be after years of trying to avoid attention. It was easy to pick up on the subtle cues people left behind when they thought no one was looking. And she knew Sierra was hiding something. Everyone was hiding something. It was only a matter of time before Kayla realized that she wasn't the only one who had suffered at Sierra's hands. She'd seen it before: the people who sat in the back of the cafeteria, the ones who avoided the halls where Sierra's group hung out. They were the ones Sierra and her friends picked on too. It wasn't just Kayla. Sierra was an equal opportunity bully. One afternoon, Kayla spotted Maya, a quiet, artistic girl in her class, sitting alone by the windows, scribbling in a notebook. Maya had never been in the popular crowd, but she'd always been friendly to Kayla. Kayla decided to take a chance. "Maya," she said, sliding into the chair across from her. "Do you, want to study for that chemistry test together? I could use a break." Maya looked up, clearly surprised. "Sure," she said, giving a small smile. "You okay? You seem a little off lately." Kayla hesitated, then nodded, deciding to take a risk. "I'm fine. Just dealing with some stuff." She paused, then added, "You know how Sierra's been, right?" Maya's expression shifted, slightly guarded, but not surprised. "Yeah. It's not just you. You know she does that to all of us, right? Just. It's a thing with her." "I know," Kayla said quietly, the weight of it all settling in her chest again. I'm done letting her get away with it." Maya looked at her carefully. Then she leaned forward, speaking in a low voice. "You're not the only one who has thought about doing something about it." Kayla blinked, surprised. "You mean?" "Yeah," Maya said, her voice steady now. "Sierra's not perfect. Not by a long shot. You just need to know how to get under her skin. Get her where it counts." Kayla felt a spark of hope. Maybe she didn't have to do this alone. "You've got ideas?" Maya nodded. "I do." The next few days were filled with meetings in secret corners of the school study halls, library corners, and even in the back of the gym during lunch. Kayla and Maya started to piece together what Kayla had already observed. They learned a lot about Sierra's weaknesses, things that no one else saw, but that Maya had noticed too. It turned out that Sierra wasn't nearly as untouchable as she seemed. For one, Sierra was obsessed with her social media image. Everything had to be perfect, every post curated to show off her life as a glamorous, carefree teen. But there was one thing Sierra couldn't control: her relationship with her boyfriend, Brad, the golden boy of Willow Creek High. Brad was just as popular as Sierra, but his image was a little less pristine. Kayla and Maya had discovered that he was hiding something, a secret he'd been trying to keep from his perfect girlfriend. Apparently, he'd been secretly flirting with a few other girls, and even worse, he'd been talking to Sophia, a girl from the grade below, behind Sierra's back. Kayla was starting to see how this all could play out. Kayla's plan was simple: expose the cracks in Sierra's perfect world quietly, carefully, and with just enough evidence to make Sierra's image crumble without any trace of Kayla's involvement. Maya suggested they start with Brad. They could anonymously leak a few of his texts to Sophia, make sure Sierra saw them at just the right moment, maybe when they were all in the same group, hanging out after school. That would be a good start. The boyfriend's betrayal would sting more than anything else. It would shatter Sierra's sense of control. But they didn't stop there. Kayla's own research into Sierra's online presence had uncovered something else. Sierra had been using the same fake profile to target other girls, one that she'd set up to spread rumors and false gossip. If Kayla and Maya could unearth that, even better. Exposing Sierra for what she really was, a manipulator and a liar, would be the final blow. They would do it carefully. No one could trace the leaks back to them. Kayla was meticulous about this, taking time to cover her tracks and think through every step. It wasn't just about revenge, it was about watching Sierra's world unravel in a way that would leave her powerless, embarrassed, and exposed. Kayla was still debating whether to go as far as to leak a few of Sierra's own humiliating moments, her slip-ups, her mistakes, but Maya convinced her that it was better to let Sierra's own pride take her down. Sierra's obsession with perfection would be her undoing. As Kayla spent more time planning, the weight of what she was about to do began to settle in. She kept asking herself, was this who she wanted to become? The sweet, quiet girl who hated conflict was now plotting the destruction of someone else's reputation. She told herself that it wasn't personal. She wasn't doing this out of jealousy or spite, it was about justice. Sierra had earned this, hadn't she? But the more Kayla thought about it, the more doubts crept in. What if she went too far? What if it got out of control? She couldn't take it back once it started. And in the back of her mind, she wondered if maybe she was becoming like Sierra after all, using the same tactics, just on a different scale. But she pushed those thoughts aside. She'd come too far. Sierra had made her feel small for far too long. This was her chance to take back control. The first step was already in motion. Maya had gotten hold of Brad's texts to Sophia, and Kayla had created a burner account on a social media app to send them to Sierra, making sure the message was sent at the perfect moment when Sierra was with Brad and her friends at the local cafe. If everything went according to plan, this would be the beginning of Sierra's downfall. The trap had been set. Kayla felt her pulse quicken as she hit send. Kayla stared at her phone, heart pounding in her chest. The text she'd carefully crafted was now in Sierra's hands. It was a screenshot of Brad's conversation with Sophia, taken from an anonymous account, and timed perfectly to land in Sierra's inbox while she was sitting with Brad at the cafe, just as Maya had suggested. The text was simple, direct, with just enough evidence to make Sierra question everything. You might want to take a look at this. Brad's been busy. I don't think he's as perfect as you think. Kayla set her phone down, trying to steady her breathing. The ball was now in Sierra's court. Would she believe it? Would she see it for what it was? A betrayal, a crack in her perfect world. Kayla's mind raced as she waited for the response. She didn't have to wait long. By the time she got to her next class, a text from Maya pinged on her phone. It worked. I saw her freak out when she read it. She's sitting with Brad right now, totally ignoring him. I think she's going to confront him. Kayla's pulse quickened. Part of her felt a twisted satisfaction, but another part, a darker, more anxious part, was beginning to feel the weight of the decision. Was she going to watch everything unfold in front of her, or would it spiral into something she couldn't control? The moments after Sierra read the message were almost unbearable. In between classes, Kayla tried to act normal, but her mind was always on Sierra. The thought of the confrontation, the raw emotion it would unleash, was consuming. Was Sierra going to break down? Was she going to lash out? By the end of the day, the news had already spread. Kayla overheard a group of girls whispering in the hallway, the words Brad and Sierra catching her attention. She lingered nearby, pretending to tie her shoe, just to hear more. I can't believe she still thinks he's perfect, one girl muttered. Brad's been talking to Sophia behind her back for weeks. That text was the least of it. Did you see Sierra's face when she confronted him? Total meltdown, another voice added. I wouldn't be surprised if they broke up by the end of the week. Kayla's stomach churned with a mixture of triumph and unease. It's working, she thought. It's working. But the more she heard about Sierra's meltdown, the more Kayla began to question the consequences of her actions. Sierra's perfect boyfriend was no longer perfect. Her perfect world was crumbling, but what did that mean for Kayla? Was Sierra really going to fall apart? Was that the justice Kayla wanted, or was it something more destructive? The next day, Sierra avoided Kayla. There were no more cruel glances in the hallway, no more public slights. Instead, Sierra seemed to shrink into herself. She was quieter, more withdrawn. It was almost worse than the bullying. Kayla found herself feeling guilty, not for what she had done, but for what it had become. She had taken away Sierra's control. The girl who had once been so confident was now walking through the halls like a shadow of herself. Sierra didn't stay down for long. 2 days later, Kayla was walking to her locker when she spotted Sierra with her friends, standing by the entrance of the school. For the first time in a while, Sierra wasn't laughing or posing for a selfie. She looked angry. Her eyes locked with Kayla's, and for a moment, Kayla thought Sierra might shout something, some insult, some taunt. But Sierra didn't. Instead, she smiled, a cold, calculating grin that sent a shiver down Kayla's spine. "Nice job, Kayla," Sierra said, loud enough for her friends to hear. "You really think you've won, don't you?" Kayla froze, her heart skipping a beat. For a second, she didn't know what to say. The venom in Sierra's voice wasn't just anger, it was the kind of anger someone feels when they're plotting something darker, something personal. "I'll admit," Sierra continued, her eyes narrowing. "That was clever. But you don't know who you're messing with. I can promise you that you won't like what comes next." The tension between them was palpable. Kayla's throat went dry. She wasn't sure what Sierra meant by her words, but one thing was clear, this wasn't over. Sierra wasn't the kind of person to lie down and take it. She had her pride, and she would strike back. Kayla quickly turned and walked away, her mind racing. Sierra knew. She knew that Kayla was behind it. And if Sierra was planning something, Kayla wasn't ready for whatever she was about to unleash. As the days passed, Kayla found herself sinking deeper into a spiral. The revenge she had so carefully orchestrated was starting to take on a life of its own. It wasn't just about Sierra anymore. It was about something darker, a thirst for control, a desire to see the bully fall. But now that it was happening, Kayla wasn't sure what she wanted anymore. One afternoon, after school, Kayla sat in the library alone, her head resting in her hands. She couldn't shake the feeling that things were getting out of hand. Was she becoming like Sierra? Was she the bully now? She tried to tell herself that she was only doing this to protect herself. That she was taking back what was hers: dignity, respect, peace. But the nagging voice in her head kept asking, at what cost? Her phone buzzed, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was a message from Maya. "Sierra's gone full nuclear. She's spreading rumors that you're the one who leaked the texts, and she's threatening to go public with everything. Be careful. She's pissed." Kayla felt a sick twist in her stomach. She knew it was coming. She could feel the storm brewing, and now it was right at her door. She quickly typed back, "What should we do?" The reply came almost instantly, "We need to get ahead of this. If Sierra's going public, we need to have a counterattack ready. We can't let her control the narrative." Kayla swallowed hard. This wasn't just about a text message anymore. This was war. Kayla stared at her phone, her finger hovering over the screen. She wasn't sure what the next step was. How much farther was she willing to go to make sure Sierra paid for everything? The moment of no return had arrived. Sierra had already started spreading her version of events. Posts on social media hinted at Kayla being the one behind the rumors about Brad, that Kayla was spreading lies and trying to tear people down. At first, Kayla ignored it, but the whispers in the halls grew louder. Her peers started to look at her differently. But in the back of her mind, she knew the storm wasn't over yet. Sierra wasn't done. Kayla felt it. And now it was time to face it head on. By Friday, the tension was palpable. Kayla received a text from Maya, "Sierra wants to meet. She's planning to confront you after school. She says she's going to tell everyone the truth about you if you don't show up. Be ready." Kayla's stomach twisted. Sierra was good at twisting narratives, turning things around to make herself the victim. But Kayla wasn't the same person she was weeks ago. It was time for Kayla to take control of her own story. After school, Kayla walked to the spot where Sierra had said they should meet. It was behind the school, near the old bleachers, a spot where no teachers or staff could easily spot what was happening. Sierra stood there, flanked by a few of her closest friends. When she saw Kayla, the smirk on her face was immediate, arrogant, confident, as though she knew she had already won. Kayla, Sierra said with a tone of mock sweetness. I see you finally decided to show up. It's too bad it's too late for you. People already know what you've done. Kayla didn't flinch. She'd been preparing for this moment in her head all week. I didn't do anything, Sierra. You're the one who has been playing people against each other. I'm not the one spreading lies. You've been bullying people for months, and now you're upset that it's catching up with you. Sierra's eyes narrowed, but she didn't lash out immediately. Instead, she stepped closer, her voice lowering to a dangerous tone. You think you can take me down with a few anonymous texts? No one will believe you. Kayla took a deep breath, standing her ground. People are starting to see the real you, Sierra. You don't control everything anymore. Not with your lies, not with your power games. I'm not afraid of you. Sierra blinked, thrown off balance by the sudden strength in Kayla's voice. You should be, she said quietly, but there was a flicker of uncertainty now in her eyes. For the first time, she wasn't the one holding the power in this situation. Kayla felt a surge of confidence. She didn't need to be loud. She didn't need to scream. The truth was enough. The silence stretched between them, and Kayla pulled out her phone. Sierra's eyes followed the movement, but Kayla didn't back down. I'm not the only one who knows what you've been doing, Sierra, Kayla said, tapping her screen. You think I'm the only one who can expose you? You've been making people's lives miserable for far too long, and now it's your turn to face the consequences. She showed Sierra the evidence on her phone, the fake social media profiles, the messages she'd uncovered, the way Sierra had manipulated others. But she didn't just show Sierra the screenshots. Kayla made sure to give a few to others, some of her classmates who had been too afraid to speak up before. I'm done letting you tear people down. I'm not the one in the wrong here. Sierra looked at the phone in disbelief, her face draining of color. Her perfect image was beginning to unravel. Her friends, who had been watching silently, exchanged uncertain glances. The power dynamic was shifting, and they could see it. Kayla, this isn't over, Sierra said, her voice barely above a whisper. There was no venom now, no confidence. Instead, there was desperation. Kayla shook her head. It is over. Not for me. Not anymore. Sierra didn't respond. Instead, she turned and walked away, her friends trailing behind her, unsure of how to react. There was no confrontation, no fight. Just the quiet, inevitable unraveling of the person who had once ruled the social hierarchy at school. The days following the confrontation were filled with uncertainty, but Kayla felt a weight lift from her shoulders. People began to talk about Sierra, but this time, it wasn't in the way she'd hoped. The rumors about her manipulative behavior spread, and while some still stuck by her, others started to distance themselves. Kayla's reputation, however, remained intact. She wasn't seen as the villain. She wasn't seen as a victim anymore, either. She had stepped out of the shadows and claimed her place not through revenge, but through standing up for herself. Some people still whispered behind her back. There were moments when Kayla caught people looking at her with distrust or curiosity. But they no longer had the power to define her. She had made her stand. In the end, Kayla realized that revenge wasn't about watching the other person suffer, it was about reclaiming her own dignity. It wasn't about tearing down Sierra, but about refusing to let her tear Kayla down anymore. As the school year came to an end, Kayla sat outside with Maya and a few other friends, the warm spring breeze making the moment feel almost surreal. For the first time in months, she felt free. Sierra was still around, still trying to maintain her social status, but Kayla no longer cared. She had stood up for herself. She had claimed her voice. And that, in the end, was enough. The cycle of bullying had been broken, at least for her. Kayla knew that she could walk through the hallways now, not as someone hiding in the shadows, but as someone who had the strength to stand tall. She wasn't perfect, and she didn't need to be. She was just Kayla, and for the first time, that was enough. And so, after the final confrontation with Sierra, Kayla felt a sense of calm settle over her heart. No longer afraid to speak her truth, Kayla didn't need to fight or seek revenge to feel strong. She had already won. She had found her voice, and that was more powerful than anything Sierra could ever say or do. The days grew brighter. At school, Kayla found herself surrounded by friends who respected her for the person she had become, not the girl who hid in the shadows, but the one who stood tall and spoke out for what was right. Slowly, even the people who had once stayed quiet in the face of bullying began to show their support. And as for Sierra, well, she didn't hold the same power over the school anymore. She had tried to break others down to build herself up, but people saw through her act now. And just like that, her influence began to fade. Kayla didn't need to watch it happen. She had learned that when you no longer need to seek revenge, it's because you've already found something much more important, peace. She had already won the most important battle of all, the one where she learned to trust herself. And as she lay in bed each night, her mind filled with dreams of new beginnings, she knew that no matter what happened, she would always be strong enough to face the world with kindness.